So how does your nutrition look like?
So my nutrition is very much a balanced nutrition, and apart from that, I take few supplements, right, to cater to, and depending on what phase of training I am. So I know there's times when I'm doing a lot of strength training, a lot of there are phases in my training where I'm under a lot of stress. I obviously have to supplement it. So it changes with time. So the amount of supplementation that I do changes with the period of training that I'm.
By supplements, you mean?
Various kind of supplements. So one thing is vitamins, supplementing vitamins, then recovery products, branch chain amino acids, etc. And apart from that, on the ride, of course, when you're
reaching there.
But
continue.
Yeah. Then when you go on a ride, right, especially when the workouts are intense. So I'm saying again, I don't want to generalize here, because what applies to me for my nutrition does not apply to the athletes I'm training. So the people who are probably training for an ultra marathon, their nutrition will be completely different, right? And actually you can depend a lot on whole food when you're doing a much slower pace. But as the pace picks up, right, as you put in a lot of stress to your body, and because you become a performance athlete, so I'm talking about me personally, you can't put on a lot of weight. So there's also limitation to how much food you can consume in terms of calories, and that's where the supplements come into the picture. But no doubt that, whole food is the healthy way to go. But this is performance related, and so let's say if I'm consuming gels, they are only restricted to races and a few preparatory runs. So what supplement, whether to take it regularly or not, all depends on, also you have to look at if there's any deficiency or not. If there's a deficiency, you'll have to sort of add in a supplement.
So what general kind of deficiencies are we looking at?
Deficiencies nowadays basically is the vitamin D and vitamin B12. Vitamin D, again I have said that the people are more concentrating on the protein only. See, vitamin D, the calcium get only absorbed if you're taking the proper vitamin D. So vitamin D, you can get it, you can just sit under the sun for half an hour and eat the vitamin D rich foods. And still, if you can't cope up with the deficiency, then definitely you need to go for the tablets. That is also in the natural forms, not the synthetic type of. So basically nowadays vitamin D and vitamin B12.
So with respect to vitamin D, there's a fun fact is both my parents are deficient vitamin D, and both of them are consuming tablets. But my father also happens to hold a doctorate in chemistry, and so in his past work he's dealt with these kind of things. So that's when he told me that these tablets don't work unless you're getting enough sunlight. They are only effective and they convert into usable.
Even if you eat the tablet, you still have to go sit in.
Yeah, because only then that really works. So apparently, it's not from an expert, but he pointed that out. So he was pointing that to my mother, like she probably needs to go out more often in the sun.
So coming back to you, I'm sure you have a lot of.
He looks prepared for an hour of speech.
You'll have to stop me because if I start, I will go on.
I've heard that conversation in the past from him, so I'm sure.
See, the biggest bastardization of food, okay?
Bad language.
You can beep it out. Has happened in the last 100 years or so. I think in 100 years before, there's no segregation of food as fat, protein, carbohydrates. There's no concept of calories. Okay, people were still fit. People still live 100 years, and they were more close to nature. All this concept of fat, protein, carbohydrate, and all this bullshit and calorie intake is come from US. Please beep up these words. This has to be.
Yes.
I'm so passionate about all this because I'm telling the Western people have screwed up the whole food system.
Again, I don't want to conflict on that, but it may not be Western, but more commercial aspects of it.
I tell you, and let me come there. Okay. When you go to the Eastern concept, when you go to Ayurveda, it's a 5,000-year-old science that is there. It treated food into a very simple thing. 6 days. Sawa better. Just make sure your food has all of this. Sattvic, rajasic, tamasic. We more have sattvic type of food, and sattvic does not mean non-veg or veg or whatever. Sattvic means fresh. Even Bhagavad Gita, Krishna has said to Arjuna that you have to have food that is cooked within 3 hours. And that is sattvic. The concept of food is so stupidly bastardized by these Westerners, that, and all the people in India are following it. Okay, there was no concept of breakfast here. There was no concept of breakfast. There was no concept of recovery drink and recovery shake and I don't know what nonsense. It's the supplement industry that has pushed in this in our throats. Okay, they're pushing this in our throats. You know, take this. You have to take a protein shake, else you will die. Oh, you just have to push. You know, they don't understand how your body works. Your body does not work with that. Drinking a protein shake is not going to make you any healthy. That's the biggest problem. You type in recovery drink or recovery shake, you'll have a lot of scientific research coming up. And they are paid researchers by the supplement industry. Paid by the supplement industry. Their name will not be there. But the SEOs, search engine optimizations, are pushing these sites up so that the person who's reading it is convinced, I need a protein shake after a workout.
What's your recommendation?
What does the body need once you finish your workout?
You answer that.
I want you to answer.
My answer was already rest, but yes.
Rest. Your body does not require protein. Let's say you take protein shake. Okay. How much time does your body take to digest that protein? 4 hours minimum. Protein is more difficult to digest. If you take in a molecular structure, your body has to goddamn break it down. Okay, it has to go through your intestine to break it down. It is not easily ingested. Even if you take the most simplest protein.
I'm going to pause you on that, right? So, I understand you're very passionate on this, but
don't stop me.
No, I'm going to stop you. But I think what we understand, right? The commercialization and all that has its own issues, and we kind of get affected by it. Fortunately, unfortunately, all of us, our first doctor is Google, right? And we shouldn't do that, we do it anyway. But what is the recommendation? What are we supposed to be eating? I mean, how do you eat? Not after the race or before the race, in general, how do you eat? How do you make sure you are fit enough for doing fitness stuff?
So, mindfulness. Just eat what your body will tell when it to stop. Chew your food. They say you should drink your food and chew your water.
Chew until it gets liquefy in your mouth.
Yes. So chew it slowly. And that will be enough time and to go into a scientific manner. I like to confuse. Okay. Your body releases a hormone called leptin. This is a signal that's sent from your gut to your brain to tell boss, I'm full, please stop. But if you eat too fast, that signal process takes minimum 20 minutes for it to reach your head. Okay. And by the time it reaches, you've already overeaten yourself. That is something that you need. So mindfulness, simple stuff. Eat slowly, eat mindfully, eat this. Intermittent fasting. You make sure that, and I don't want to get, do you want me to talk about the whole science about it?
See, the fasting and all come once you've eaten sufficient. I don't even know how the people, are they eating well, are they eating good stuff? I don't know what is going on.
So that's why I said keep your food simple, eat what is cooked, eat fresh foods. First thing important is mindfulness. When you eat something, you should not be, looking into your mobile or reading a newspaper. You should sit and focus on the food you're eating. Number one thing is make sure that you're not eating processed food. When I say processed food, anything that you get off the shelf from a supermarket is processed food. So you should not, making sure that you're eating home cooked food, sattvic kind of.
When you say off the shelf, it's ready to eat food you're talking about. Exactly. Not like the dals and all that.
And I think I'll shift this question to Samta because I think she will be able to answer it much better.
Yes, definitely.
But I'll let him finish.
Okay.
And then we want her to say good and bad of both of you.
So I think there are things I agree with him that, off the shelf food should be best avoided. I keep telling people try to get as much natural, but the world that we live in today, right? Tell me what is not processed. So I think even cooking is processing. Anything where you are sort of putting an input, running something and getting an output is processing. So I would like to say that you can't generalize, not all processing is bad because human beings have learned a few good things. Commercialization has lended a few good things, but at the same time it has brought the drawback. So human beings have, I would say, I'm not saying necessarily have always become unhealthy. We have done a few things which has made us unhealthy, but as long as we are shaffing out what is bad and keeping the good, I think that's a good approach. So when I say supplement, right, that's what it is. Supplement. It doesn't even amount, I can't say the exact number. You have to see what % of that food it is, and it is only coming into the picture because you're doing an activity which is extremely stressful, because it's performance oriented activity. So I don't see it as the natural way of life. Running marathons is not a natural way of life, or doing a triathlon is not the natural way of life. So we can do with a natural way of eating provided everything else is natural. But human beings have evolved, right? What we do on a day-to-day basis has changed, very sedentary. So because of that, certain other aspects have also changed. But of course, we need to keep evaluating whether this is good for health. That is obviously the first priority, because fitness is one thing, performance is one thing, but it all comes only be done when there is a good foundation of health, right? So that has to be there, and that's where wholesome food really matters. And then on top of that, if you're doing an activity which involves sort of, I would say, modifying the sort of food that you need, because it's performance oriented, because you need to watch your weight. So if you're a marathoner, obviously you're running 42 kilometers, you want to be as light as possible, probably little lighter than what a normal person in the bell curve is like, so that there's less stress on the body. That's always been the case with marathons. So in that case, you sort of have to cut down the calorie consumption while getting the extra nutrients that you need. But otherwise, if someone is leading the normal life, it's perfectly possible to do that by just taking whole foods. In that case, you need to stop looking at, I know the world has become like everything packet has saying what nutrient it is. Everything has become nutrientized, So food is not just, a collection of nutrients. It's a lot more than that, I agree with those aspects. But when it comes to sport, I mean, we've seen over the time in the history, Western or wherever, that performance improves when you are taking certain set of supplements. And I agree that sometimes research is funded by these companies and all of that, but there's also some amount of truth in it, because our sporting standard, performance standards have improved, and one of the factors is nutrition. There is a little bit of engineering happening. So even what we do as coach, I mean, I sometimes think about it. My profession earlier was that of a supply chain consultant, and today I'm more of a human performance consultant. So we're trying to engineer people here to perform in a way which they have never done before, right? So what they're doing is probably what they've not done even when they were young, right? So there has to be some modification. It just can't run on the same natural system. That's my perspective, right? Again, it's as we learn more about these things, I'm sure this is an evolving thing, but we have to be mindful, as you said, what is right and what is wrong. We can't take anything. We have to keep evaluating what is really detrimental and can be avoided. And that's something, unfortunately, we don't know everything, right? We have to depend on the experts. So that's where I think she comes in.
Both of them actually agree on one thing, that you need to be mindful. Well, one is,
of course,
completely like saying you have to be eating natural food. He's on the more pragmatic side, you need something more, go get it. Now, what is the right way to do it?
Well, there's timings also, with the food. People are eating the food, but they are eating at the wrong time. Like the Ayurveda says, when the sun is at its peak, like between 12 to 2, you should eat your big meal. But I don't get the point in India how the breakfast concept has come up. Everybody's saying have the big breakfast, then only your brain can work. The breakfast should be light. Your biggest meal of the day should be in the middle of the day. That is between 12 to 2. And your last meal should be before the sun sets. You can say around after 6 o'clock, do not eat any solids. You can have water, you can have milk, that's it. So we should eat as per the sun, as our Veda also like saying. So the timing is also very important. And the other aspect is like Sunil said, the mindful eating. So what the mindful eating does, when you engage your senses in eating, when you enjoy the taste, you feel like, oh, it's sweet, salty, or this bitter, you secrete the enzymes. That is the digestive enzymes, and you can have a better digestion. If you have better digestion, you can perform well in your event races or in your training. So the number here is the mindful eating is the best thing, and the second is the hydration. You should drink water, 2 to 3 liters of the water every day, but do not drink water along with your food. So what happens when we chew our food, we are igniting our digestive fire. But if you're drinking the water at the same time, you are suppressing the fire. Then you will end up having a gassy stomach, or maybe the constipation or any other stomach related problem. So always have the water 1 hour after your meal, not along with your meals.
If I may add to what she said, I mean, apart from the system that she talked about, I think what activity you do also sort of needs to be factored in. So if you're doing a big workout in the morning, you would have to follow it up with a big breakfast. Like because the recovery to a great extent depends on whether you're able to get the right nutrients, and you also need carbohydrates to get the recovery going. So sometimes if you're not getting the right amount of nutrition in, the quantity after a big workout, your recovery is hampered. So you're basically not getting as much benefit out of whatever workout you did. So that is where nutrition plays a very critical role. Like what we do in training is basically stressing our body so that it learns to perform better, right? But it will only do that provided we sort of give it the right inputs. So that also would affect what quantity you're having, right? For an athlete especially, I'm talking from a runner's perspective purely, right? Or in an athlete's perspective, what volume of training, so can greatly determine, what kind of food you should be eating and what quantity you should be eating. That would sometimes vary. So when you start tapering, the kind of nutrition also differs, right? Because the goals are very different, the kind of activities you're doing are very different. So these are other additional factors that would influence what you are having on a daily basis.
So interesting thing I just was thinking about is we should have something called speed advice. Just put all of you in one room, ask 10 athletes to come in and go talk to each one of them 1 minute at a time.
I wouldn't do it. So I'm a very slow guy. I take my time. All my athletes would tell me that they ask me a question, I never respond to them then and there. I take my own sweet time because I like to reflect on things.
And from the whole thing, and this is what we always knew, and I think it's come out, each one of you has a perspective of the same thing, right? And I don't know, I don't think anybody can say it's right or wrong because all of you are doing pretty well.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, you're not running, but I'm saying from a running perspective.
That's okay.
But both of you are doing pretty well as individual athletes, as coaches. I don't know, we have to learn.
Are you saying you want to decide on?
No, I'm not. I'm saying we cannot decide. It's perspective.
Correctly. I know, I am agreeing with you. So, like any walk of life, right? There will be different perspective, there will be different schools of thought, and as long as that is giving a result. But having said that, if I feel what I believe in today, if I see over the period of time that maybe it's not working, I always say that you have to go with an open mind. You have to be willing to evaluate what's happening. You can never, because this is not something which you invented. You've probably read this somewhere, you've studied this somewhere, you are believing facts, you're probably seeing certain things. So you have to come with an open mind always. Never get into a defensive mode that I once said this, or I believe this and I have to preach this now, right? Or I have to preach what I practice is also wrong. So what works for me, my nutrition is very different from probably every other athlete has its own. So you also have to look at, even apart from the sport, there is, I'm sure she must be knowing, right? People have allergies, people tend to react differently to different sort of food. So that's where a expert comes into the picture. So you cannot, especially when it comes to nutrition, you cannot always generalize, and even the athlete or the person himself will have to probably go through a process and then realize what works for him, and then probably come to a point where they're comfortable and they are able to be healthy and fit.
The trial and error thing probably works best for everybody to try everything.
See, there's nothing called as trial and error. The Ayurvedic system is very clearly defined. Okay, what he said is right. What works for one person might not work for the other person. How do you find that out? Okay, you cannot do trial and error. Ayurveda has a system, and I think Samta can talk more about it, because you have this dosa test which will tell you each body type, and based on your body type it will tell you which foods will suit you, which foods won't suit you, and it's a science that has been there for 5,000 years. It's not something that's...
Yeah, I just want to tell you the brief here, otherwise that will take the whole day to tell about the Ayurveda. So just want to tell in a brief, we have every person has a different body type. So what my work is I give them the questionnaire, the set of questionnaire I have made it. First, the thing is I need to find out what kind of body type they're having. They're having Vataj, Pittaj, Kaphaj, or maybe out of these two also. So according to that, the diet can be prepared. Not there's no one generic diet for everyone. There are few things that suits only to the Kaphaj person, not to the Vataj person. So this is a whole lot of science behind it.
So we don't have to be blind towards it. What I want to say is, there's no need to do a trial and error. The science has been defined by Ayurveda. It's a science that has been running for 5,000 years. And they have done this homework for us already. All we need to do is to understand that science, incorporate it, of course, see it, validate it. And we've seen some amazing results in training some of our trainees, really performed to the expectations or beyond that, So to answer your previous question, you're saying, both have two different streams, or, not only me, not to compare between both.
So as I said, he's pointing out that he's seen success. So I'm someone who believes in eternally, questioning. So whatever principles I followed for my own training, in fact, I followed different principles all the time and mix and match things. this thing has worked greatly. I mean, I've seen the greatest improvement in my performance, but I'm not going to stop questioning it. I'm still going to keep looking at it, reviewing it, because I'm sure there are ways to, change that, and maybe I need something different the next time. So that has always been my approach. It's like there's no religion when it comes to this. There's no such thing as this is 100% foolproof system. We as human beings are so different. It is a lot more complicated than that, and maybe an age-old system is working, which means most of it is right. But as far as I'm concerned, always keep checking if there is a way to improve it, because human beings have evolved to become better because of this nature of, keep questioning. This is what I believe, of course. Maybe some people might not agree with that, but
Who says Ayurveda should not have our
Yeah.
added to it, but
So just to give my point of view, I think like this is that I know what Anubhav said is also right, because we don't know even 5% of how our body works, and that is just something that we need to ask ourselves. Do I know how my body works and all that stuff? Do I require this? So of course, to conclude this from my side, I would say that you need to make sure that between two athletes, if you say, who's taking supplementation or who's going through Ayurveda or whatever process is it, what's going to evaluate, to answer your question, what's going to take a person or evaluate whether this works or not is in 10 years time where the person is. I'm 46, okay, I can still race, okay. There are people who are saying, at 38 that this is going to be my last race, after that I'm not going to race. I'm thinking of longevity. I want to still do an Ironman, and I'm saying this in front of the camera. I want to still do an Ironman when I'm 100 years old.
Right.
I'm going to do an Ironman when I'm 100 years old, and that is my aim. So I'm not looking short-term benefits. I'm not looking for a PB right now. I'm not looking for something. I want to see that I'm able to cross the finish line at 100 years. What Fauja Singh did for a full marathon, I want to do it in an Ironman. And if I'm able to do this, I have lived a healthy life. I don't need to prove anything.
you've done the
to
right
anyone.
kind of thing in your life.
Yes.
Well, the bottom line here is we should go the natural way. See, we already are surrounded by so much of the chemicals, pollution. At least what we are putting in our mouth, that should be chemical free. So my take is here is eat natural foods rather than going for the supplements. If you want the supplements, eat the herbal based supplements rather than the chemical based supplements. So just stay clear from the processed foods, stay clear from the sugar, go more naturally. Seasonal, regional foods. That's the.
I don't have a bottom line. That's always been my
So
approach.
you're always
Yeah,
willing to
I mean,
go
it's
back
this
in
learning
between.
process. We are at open face. I like to finish this with an open mind. Yeah. I have a certain set of beliefs. I already expressed that, but I will never say that.
willing to-
Yeah, that's the bottom line. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Anubhav, Sunil, and Dr. Samda. It was great talking, but before we close, we want that one piece of advice from each of you for our athletes. We start with Anubhav.
I would say it's important to sort of reflect on what you're doing, look at what you have been doing rather than focusing on what others are doing, and always go in with that open mind, and try to learn lessons from your past, and that should hold you in good stead.
I want to tell all the runners is go naturally, eat the natural foods and have one meal raw, means organic raw fruits or organic raw vegetables, because our body needs more alkaline based diet. If you're having more alkaline based diet, your digestion will be good and you can perform better in your later races. So eat your food more in a natural form. And the second thing is mindful eating. Pay attention at whatever you're eating, just pay attention on your food and chew your food well. Thank you.
So my piece of advice to all of you all is nothing what we've discussed right now, but one important thing that you all have to do is focus on your breath. Breathe slowly, breathe nasally, and be conscious of your breath. If you're conscious of your breath, you'll be more stress free. So that's one thing that I would definitely want to give everybody to take away. So focus on your breath, and second thing is smile. You need to smile. Bring a smile out throughout the day. Even if you don't know the person, just smile at him, because a smile does wonders. When you are running or when you're having a bad day, smile, because a smile makes a huge difference to the person who's looking at you. Thank you very much.
Hope you enjoyed our episode today. We had some wonderful company. This episode was brought to you with support from all these wonderful people. Please like, share and subscribe to our channel and see you in the next episode.